Hello, sixth graders. Welcome to your video lesson on fractions and percents. So I can write fractions as percentages. I can write percentages and fractions as that. And then I can write ratios as percentages. So another one of writing equivalents. So we're just trying to write fractions and percents, numbers that can represent the same thing but look differently. So think about what you already know about fractions, what you already know about percents, and then get ready to get to it. Okay, so how can we represent parts of a whole? So think about what you already know. We looked at how we write fractions and decimals and how those can be equivalent. So now we're looking at ratio, which is kind of another word for fractions. So this is how we compare. This is a comparison of two numbers by division. So we can write a ratio as like a part compared to a whole, or like a fraction, right, where we write the part out of the whole. So I have 3 pieces out of 4 pieces of pizza. A percent, think about vocabulary. What I know about percent is it means per 100. So this is a ratio compared to 100. So if I had, 50 cents, that's 50 cents out of a dollar, 50 of 100. So it's per 100. If you think century is 100 years, a cent is one of the 100 that you need to make a dollar. So per cent means per 100. And that is a little tip right there. So fractions and percents are ratios, so they're a comparison of two numbers. And then they can each be used to represent the same number, just like a decimal can. So let's take a look at some equivalencies. Yee-haw! So if I wanted to write a fraction as a percent, so I'm switching from a fraction to a percent, a different way to represent the same number. Remember, they're equivalent, they're not different. So the steps here, you might want to write these down if you don't have the template, are we want to change the denominator to be per 100, right? Out of 100, because we know percent means per 100. And then we'll do that same thing with the numerator. Remember, we want to change them by the same factor. And then we're going to add the percent sign after we get rid of that denominator, because saying percent is the same as saying the per 100. So noticing here we change it by the same factor. We change 3/20ths to say it's equal to 15/100ths. We knew that 100 was a multiple of 20, so each of these were changed by a factor or a multiple here of 5. So 20 times 5 is 100, 3 times 5 is 15. Notice both the numerator and denominator, the same thing happened because the goal is to keep it equivalent. So if you're looking at a visual representation, there's 20 pieces here, and 3 of the 20 is the same as 15 of these 100 pieces here. You can visually see they represent the same thing. So that means that 3/20ths as a fraction is the same as 15/100ths, or 15 per cent, 15 per 100. So there are your steps right there. Maybe you're ready to give it a try yourself, writing the fraction as a percent. Maybe you want to watch a couple and then try on your own. So here for 17/20ths, again, I know that changes. That can be a factor of, 20 is a factor of 100. So if I multiply both my numerator and my denominator, showing my work, by 5, I get 85/100ths. So 17/20ths is equivalent to 85/100ths, which is the same as 85 per 100, or 85%. So again, just equivalence. Next one, I see 3/5ths, and I know that is 10 is a multiple of that. So I might multiply both by 2, and then I get that that's 6/10ths. And so I know 6/10ths then, that could be changed to 100. So if I was able to multiply by 2 and 10, I could have just started by multiplying by 20 also. And I get that 3/5ths is the same as 6/10ths, or the same as 60/100ths. Remember, per 100 means that I can just take my numerator. That is 60%, or per 100. Last one, maybe you're ready to do it on your own. I see that I'm going to try to get this to be out of 100. To do that, I can multiply both the numerator and denominator by 4. And I get 8/100ths, which is the same as 8 per 100 or 8%. So again, you were using a number to multiply both the numerator and denominator to get my denominator to be per 100, and per 100 means percent. So what you're going to realize is that ratios are fractions. Fractions compare a numerator out of a denominator. Ratios are two numbers compared by division. So we can write, sometimes you're going to, instead of fraction, you might see ratio. So here it says, write each ratio as a percent. Well, the ratios are written out in words right now, but that's simple because we can also change them to be written as a fraction. So when we read that someone has 30 out of 50 books read, that we can write that as 30 compared to 50. And then the same rules apply. We want to change these to be percent or per 100 by changing them by a number. So 50 times 2 gets me to 100. Whatever I do to the bottom, I must do to the top because the goal is to keep things equal. So then that means that that's 60 per 100, which is the same as 60%. What that means is that someone has read 60% of the total books. For the next one, we have 12 out of 25 teenagers. So 12 compared to 25. We want to get that to be per 100. We know that 100 is a multiple of 25. It's the fourth multiple. So we multiply by 4. 4 times 12 is 48. So we have 48 per 100. Meaning that 12 out of 25 teenagers is the same as 48 out of 100 teenagers, which means that that is 48% of a total. On the bottom here, same thing. Even though it's a decimal, that means that we have 12.2 out of 100. Normally, we wouldn't write that as a fraction with a decimal included, but right away we can tell if it's per 100, this is the same as 12 2/10%. You drop that per 100 and write it as per 100 with a percent sign. Those are the same. Last one, 11 feet out of 20 feet. That's 11 compared to 20. And I know that 100 is a multiple of 20. It's the fifth multiple, so we multiply both by 5. So 11/20ths is the same as 55/100ths. 55 per 100 is the same as 55 per 100 or percent. All right, so now going in reverse, can we change percents or per 100ths to then be written as fractions in simplest form? So if I have 48%, the steps here are that I'm going to drop that percent sign and replace it with what is equivalent, which means per 100 as a denominator. So I know that 48% is the same as 48 per 100. When I'm writing something in simplest form, that means I'm dividing by common factors. So we've talked about common factors a lot. We are going to divide until we can't divide. The greatest common factor then would be 1. So in this case, I see that they're both even, so I could start with 2, but I might recognize that they are both divisible by 4. Starting by 2 would be fine too. You just might have to divide more than once. So 48 divided by 4 is 12. 100 divided by 4 is 25. So this means that 12/25ths is equivalent to 48/100ths and 48%. Those are all equivalent. So now maybe you could try writing that percent, that per 100, as a fraction in simplest form, remembering these are equivalent. So I start with 40%. I know that means 40 per 100. I recognize that these both have a factor of 4. Maybe I start there. Somebody else might start with 10. And I get 10/25ths. Well, I recognize that those both share a factor of 5. And so that then simplifies to 2/5. So this means that 2/5 is equivalent to 40%. I divided by 4 and I divided by 5 for numerator and denominator. So that means I could have divided by 20. Notice 4 over 4 is the same as 1. 5 over 5 is the same as 1. So essentially we are really just dividing by 1 whole, right? And we know then that these are equivalent because I haven't changed the value, I've just simplified them. 6%. Maybe you're ready to try this on your own. 6% means that is 6 per 100. If I want to simplify, I do a common factor. They're both even, so I can divide them both by 2. And I would get 6 divided by 2 is 3. 100 divided by 2 is 50. That means 3/50 is the same as 6%. 23% means 23 per 100. What I notice here is that 23 is prime, so these do not share a factor other than 1, so this is simplified at 23 per 100. This would be great if you want to write down these steps or if you want to take a screenshot. These are just the steps, kind of a reminder, step review, screenshot spot for how do I change a fraction to a percent and how do I go from a percent to a fraction. So step-by-step guide there. Maybe you could do another example right below, but this would be a great spot to stop and look at in the middle of an assessment or assignment if you are feeling stuck. All right, time for you to try. Again, referencing that last slide, the steps for each. These first two, you are going to be changing them from a fraction to a percent, remembering that percent means per 100. That's a good helpful tip. The second side, what you are doing is changing them from a percent, from the per 100, to a simplified fraction. Never forget that we are always going to simplify our fraction by dividing by a common factor. You got this. Make sure you share them with me, and we can go over them via Zoom. Take a second when you finish here to look back over your notes. Are they titled? Do you have the learning targets? Have you thought about what you already know? Were there new vocab words that you needed? And have you done all of the examples? Remember, we do multiple examples so that you have multiple opportunities to learn from different situations. And then did you do the problems at the end of the video with work and the solution? Trying on your own is super important. It's okay to get them wrong. It's not okay to not try. Check in with yourself, maybe by explaining this to somebody else, checking in with a classmate. Rewatch anything you need to, and of course, you can try iExcel or any other practice problems. You can use your notes to help you when completing this unit's work, and of course, doing any assignment or assessment. Can't wait to see your work. Have a great day.